y'all ready to head off to the trails? I'm the Cryptid Huntress, Jessica Jones, and I'm ready to take you on a legendary journey right now. We welcome you to Off the Trails on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do, because we would really appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. You can find me, the Cryptid Huntress, at thecryptidhuntress.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Cryptid Huntress. Visit my shop, War Woman Goods, and you can also find my shop on my website, The Cryptid Huntress. Just hit that shop link. All right, I want to thank BUMBLEFOOT for that amazing music on my intro tonight. You're the best. I appreciate it. All right, well, we have a great guest for you guys tonight who has not shown up yet. So I've not had this happen before, but we're going to make it work tonight, okay? So Evan D of Occult 45 is supposed to be here tonight. So we're hoping that he shows up. If not, we've got somebody really awesome coming in and stepping up to the plate tonight. So don't forget that right after the show, BigWilly, Jon, and Grant will be ready to go on after hours in their man cave. It's going to be an all-male show tonight. I was going to say all-male review, but that sounds weird. So, yeah. Well, I was going to say let's get to our guest, but Evan is not here yet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys who Evan is real quick, just in case. All right, he's the host of Occult 45 podcast. He's an interdimensional experiencer based in Tampa, Florida. He explores conspiracies, the occult, cryptids, hidden history, psychedelics and DMT, different dimensions, and so much more. So I was going to say we have Evan here with us tonight, and we were going to go totally interdimensional tonight, but he's not here at the moment. So I was actually really looking forward to this tonight because I don't know a whole lot of other people that I've talked to that have had interdimensional experiences before other than myself. I've actually experienced something with my team actually out in the field doing Bigfoot field research. So yeah, I actually was really excited about talking about the DMT aspect. And yeah, so I think that Grant and BigWilly have stepped up and they have a couple of people that would love to come on tonight. So I'm going to bide some time for a little bit and hope that they show up tonight. But if not, hey, I got plenty to talk about and I'll wing it. So I think this is all brand new for me. So yeah. So an interdimensional experience, someone in the chat was asking about what is an interdimensional experience? Well, that's what we're going to find out about tonight. So yeah, I'll tell you about my interdimensional experience. So, you know, I do Bigfoot field research and I'm a part of 3 different teams, and we go out and do a whole bunch of research out in the field. And, you know, not only do we experience Bigfoot, but we experience, you know, aliens. We experience ghosts. We experience all sorts of very weird stuff out in the field. So one evening, my friends and I were in our base camp, and something weird was going on, and we were having, you know, a lot of really weird high strangeness going on around base camp, and behind our tents, you know, something was going on. It was really odd, and let's just say something like a portal opened up, and something came out of it and screamed at us. Okay, screamed really loud, and a lot of times I'd like to just say, you know, maybe that was a Bigfoot or something like that, but honestly, we believe that might have been something that was more interdimensional, because I didn't actually see a Bigfoot and it came out of a portal. So, you know, so all I can say is that was an interdimensional. Now, I saw that in real life. That was a real life experience. Okay. Not to say that like the DMT stuff is not real life, because that's real life too. And so reality gets really hazy, you know, and it gets kind of intermingled and kind of crosses over when you're talking about interdimensional stuff, like interdimensional travel and, you know, encountering beings when you take DMT. And so I wanted to talk to Evan tonight about DMT naturally occurring in your brain and in your body. And yeah, I don't know a whole lot about psychedelics. So yeah, let's see. Let's go to the chat tonight and see what everybody's talking about. because I know a lot of you are probably here and know a whole lot about psychedelics, and I don't. So let's see here. All right. Well, if anybody knows Evan, you guys hit him up, because I don't know why he hasn't shown up tonight. But yeah, let's see. All right. Parallel realities. I have no idea. There are parallel realities out there. Okay. And let's see. Let's see here. All right. Well, how about I just go down the list of things I was going to talk to him about tonight? Okay. So, all right. Actually, I have somebody here. Okay. So we're going to pull up Rodrigo tonight. All right. Let me take this down. Thank goodness we've got Rodrigo here.
Hi there. I'm so sorry it took so long. I had some trouble getting the link to work on my iPad, but got it figured out.
You know what? You're a lifesaver tonight, because I've never had an experience where my guest didn't show up last minute. So, Rodrigo, hi, I'm Jessica. Very nice to meet you tonight.
Jessica, pleasure.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Gosh, where do I start? Well, candidly, I'm a pretty normal guy. I like cars and guitars, and I'm in digital marketing by trade. I did some acting and was a musician for a while in my younger years. But I've had a sort of an interesting sort of history throughout growing up in my childhood that sort of seemed kind of unusual, and just sort of not really founded or based in anything, just sort of strange kind of things that would happen here and there that weren't necessarily connected in any way. And then a couple of years ago, I had a series of really intense experiences with the UFO phenomena that had kind of continued until this day, and it's thus kind of shed a lot of light on the things that happened a lot earlier in my life. And actually recently I got to spend some time with my father, who I hadn't seen since I was 18. I'm 34 now, and getting to sort of learn that this kind of has a family tie through line, that can kind of be traced back. That was pretty interesting to learn about. So.
Wow, that's awesome. That's amazing. Rodrigo, we have actually Enzo that popped in too. So I saw you had to sign up to set an emergency guest.
Yeah, that's one of my roles on the internet, is
oh my gosh,
the emergency guest sometimes.
You guys, y'all are the best. I appreciate this. I literally have never had a guest not show up before at the last minute. So
it happens.
Thank y'all. It happens. I need to have people. I have two. Well, Rodrigo, I want to hear more. Now, where do you live? Are you in the U.S.?
I am. Yeah, I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I grew up in Austin. I happen to live in Oklahoma City at the moment, but I'll likely probably be relocating back to the Austin area probably before year's end. So.
Very nice. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, Enzo, thank you so much for showing up. You're not going to be on After Hours tonight, are you?
Nope. I was supposed to have tonight off. I was going to sit back and be a casual viewer and check out your shows. I don't usually get to see it because I'm having to jump on the other show, but
I know. Well,
didn't realize I was going to be part of it though. That's okay.
Well, thank you. I saw you in the chat before you came on, and so I was like, oh man, I actually got sweaty tonight, y'all. I got a little sweaty. Oof, that's not like me. Okay,
little stage fright, little panic.
No stage fright. Just like, wow, where's my guest? Okay, well, I want to talk to Rodrigo some more about your experiences.
I'd love to hear more from Rodrigo.
Yeah, let's hear some more, Rodrigo. Tell us some more about your experiences.
I've been sort of mulling over kind of where to start the story, just because there's kind of there's a lot of back and forth where it's like, this happened but it didn't make sense until this happened, kind of thing.
And you just got put on the spot. You just got put on blast out of nowhere tonight. So
yeah, let's see how.
We haven't really had time to formulate, but hey,
like getting that center stage spotlight right now.
Hey, just take your time. We're all friends here, even though I just met you.
I guess I'll start with a couple of isolated incidents um, that might seem like maybe unrelated or um, yeah, unrelated to one another that maybe later on will hopefully connect. Um, the way that I met Grant actually was I was listening to him on Spaced Out Radio, and we had a lot of similarities in our story, specifically around childhood. Um, I have a lot, for starters, I used to wake up on the floor all the time. As a little kid, I would fall out of the bed, but I would fall out. They actually got the like a bed railing to keep me in, and I would wake up on the floor face down all the time. I had no idea how I
Wow.
would get there, but I would frequently remember, really bright light in the window, and at that time, my sister, who was 10 years older than me, we used to share a room when I was real little, 2, 3, 4 years old. And, there's some interesting experiences there, but I think the most profound one, and I actually heard the Kinsella brothers, I think, kind of speak on something very similar to this that kind of rattled me when I heard them talk about it. But there was, aside from there always seemingly being something in the room with me, and my sister also had a presence that seemed to always be with her. She called him Steve, I think. She kind of had a laissez-faire, relationship with him. He's like,
She
ah,
knew
it's
his
whatever, it's
name.
just Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
She
yeah,
named him.
she kind of
That
just
was just a
named
pet
him.
name. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so she had Steve, but there was one night where there was a really massive insect in the bed, but it I mean, I'm talking the size of a cell phone kind of insect. It was, if it wasn't real, it wasn't a real life insect, but it was there. It was big, and it had a very directed way of movement. Like it moved with a deliberate purpose. It wasn't sort of meandering like a natural bug might be doing across a
Yeah.
mattress.
Was it robotic or was it just something
Yeah,
else? Yeah.
Really?
well, robotic in maybe a loose sense of the word. I don't know that it would be um, robotic the way that we would define a robot with nuts and bolts. I mean,
Hmm.
it definitely looked um, maybe animatronic would be a better way to describe it, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah, I've seen ETs move before and walk around. I've had up close and personal contact, and they don't move like regular beings, like humans or animals or anything. From the ones that I experienced, they had really weird movements to them, kind of like what you're describing.
yeah, and I mean, it traumatized and scarred me for life. They specifically kind of reminded me of, I don't know, down here in Texas, we have these giant gray stink bug looking things, and they look kind
Oh
of
yeah,
alien. Their legs are backwards, and they have this sort of polygonal shape to them. They almost look like the Dark Knight satellite. I don't know if you know what kind of bugs I'm talking
Ah,
about, but
yeah,
they've got this sort of weird shape to them. It sort of looked like that, but just overly developed in every sort of capacity, and it seemed to me, it was observing me or something. Like it was definitely cued in on me, and I remember pulling the covers, revealing what it was, me backing up into the middle of the bed. And I remember, I was a little kid. My sister and I were sharing my parents' bedrooms. I think had gone out of town, and so I wasn't in my normal sleeping situation, nor was I by myself. But I couldn't wake up my sister. She wouldn't wake up for some reason. That was also pretty alarming.
yeah.
Um, but at this point, I just chalked it up to a bad dream. So fast forward to I'm 18 years old. This is going to sound completely unrelated. potentially. My grandmother's on her deathbed. She's in the hospital in Puerto Rico. My dad's side of the family is all there. My dad has some brothers and sister, and they've got grandkids. And so one of the grandkids, Paola, she was a year and a half. She was just south of 2 years old, and she could barely speak. You know, she knew mama and dada, and she knew, you know, that sort of thing. She could not really walk on her own a little bit, but she would, you know, she would need to have her hand held, and she was very cute. Well, we were all out on the fire escape stairs taking a smoke break. We were all smokers back then. This is back in 2006. And all of a sudden, my cousin, her mother, and her kind of bolt out into the fire escape area, and the mother is being led by the toddler, or by the tot. And she has a very determined look on her face, and she's trying to reach her grandfather, my uncle. And she's speaking in completely formed adult sentences, and she is bossy, and she's ordering people around, and she's trying to get everybody's attention on her. And so we're kind of, you know, doing the baby googly eyed sort of talk, you know, as you might to a distressed tot. She's clearly upset about something, or but she won't have it. She physically stops us from doing that to try to get us to focus, but she's speaking in complete adult sentences. And the conversation that happens is as follows. She says, Grandpa, there's a petura in there with grandmother. And that's the word she used. I don't know what it means. I've looked it up. I've tried spelling it 6 ways from Sunday. Don't know what it means. That's the word she used. She said, there's a petura in there with grandma. And so we start to question her. And so my uncle says, well, what is a petura? And she says, it's white. And he goes, well, what do you mean it's white? She says, it's white. And he goes, well, do you mean it's the color white? And she distinguishes. She says, no, it's white. And then he says, well, how can it, if it's not the color white, how can it be white? And she corrects him again. She goes, no, it's white. And so he goes back, and we're all kind of starting to get a little freaked out here. And I think I became a little hip to it before anybody else did, but pretty soon she had everybody's attention, and we were all kind of huddled around trying to figure out what in the world was going on. And we're having this conversation, and we're like, well, does it make any noise? We're thinking maybe it's a piece of machinery or something. And she says it makes a noise. And we're like, well, what kind of noise does it make? And she goes, it's white. And we go, well, how can a noise be white? And she goes, it's white. So she keeps, you know, correcting us and sort of guiding us that, you know,
persistent.
with this thing, very persistent. And so we finally get around to, it's the color white, and the noise that it makes is white. And so we finally, we regurgitate that back to her so that she's good, and she agrees. And then she says, and it's flying around the room, and it wanted me to come tell you that everything is going to be okay. And so to me, this was a really, really special moment, and a highly spiritually charged moment, and a really special moment. And I actually really just in that moment, the nurse came out and was like, you guys better get in here. And you know, she passed later that day. You know, within 45 minutes of that event. And so I kind of, you know, had that and sort of put that into a box. And then fast forward into college, and I have an accidental out-of-body experience. I had just finished crew practice. I was on the rowing team in college. I had about 10 minutes before I had to start making my way to my first period. And so I just kind of laid down on my back and was just kind of gonna chillax for the next couple of minutes before I had to walk to class. I had to run 5 miles back to campus as part of practice. I was tired.
5 miles, that's a nice little run. A little practice time.
Yeah, well, and you had to
I don't
run
even like
5
driving
miles
that
there.
far. But...
Right.
Yeah, we had to run to the river, do the practice, and then run back. So I didn't do that more than 1 year. I was like, that's enough for me.
Yeah, that's a good workout.
Yeah. But while there, it was quite abrupt and jarring. And sorry, I'm just blazing through all of this.
I love it. I'm happy. Look, blaze through it. Blaze through it. I love
it.
We're quiet because we don't want to interrupt. We don't want to miss anything.
Absolutely not. You have some good stories here too.
Thanks.
So now, let me ask you a question real quick.
Sure.
Okay, so the white thing, the white, do you think that was an orb? Do you think it was? What exactly do you think that was?
I do think that was an orb, and that's why I'm like, this is all going to start to like become super clear to me as the time goes on, because up to this point, it's like, oh, spiritual event, or oh, weird dream, it
sounds similar to my stories as well. I have the same, a lot of orbs. Like the first ghost I ever saw, what I considered a ghost was an orb. So, it was in a haunted house. So that's why I called it a ghost. Could have been an ET. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know, but exactly that. It was sort of over the last couple of years, the story of my life has started to get a lot more clear as to what all these things have maybe been about.
Yeah. It'll all come together though, it always does. Yeah. And you'll see it's all connected.
Yes. So I'm laying in bed, and what was interesting is I felt my jaw sort of like forcefully open itself, like involuntary, like somebody was doing it for like it felt borderline violent, and almost like a projectile, like involuntary motion of lockjaw. And I sat up, and in that instant, I noticed I was still laying down, and, I flipped out and instantly got sucked back in. But I was fascinated because my dad was into new spirituality and Gnosticism and things like that growing up, and yoga, and my sister had told me about out-of-body experiences that she had, but I had never, it was just stuff, it had never happened to me. And so I spent the next 6 months trying to recreate that and failed miserably. Then the following year, it happened again, very similar way. And my roommate walked in to let me know we had to get ready to go to class. And I was so upset with him. I was like, ooh, it took me 6 months to do this again. And right when I get there, you walk in. And then that's when it started to get scary. Once I left college, I got into binaural beats as a means to kind of getting my brain frequency into a place that was more amenable to astral projecting and things like that. I started really going down the rabbit hole and trying to learn my stuff, and it worked. And I started to do a lot with that, and there's some great experiences there, but the reality is that rather quickly it became an incredibly frightening experience. One that I really couldn't manage very well. There seemed to always be other entities going on, and I just didn't have what I call the astral mechanics down. If I want to move my arm over here, my brain tells my arm to go move over there, and that I'm not good on driving on the other side, and that can be incredibly scary when there's other things. Essentially, trying to occupy you. And
I know exactly what you're talking about. I know this is going to sound weird, but I know what you're talking about because I'm actually trained in remote viewing. I do remote viewing.
Oh, nice.
My entire team, we just met, Rodrigo. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself real quick. I am
Sure.
a Bigfoot field researcher, okay, out of Georgia.
Oh, nice.
And I'm on several different teams. And my main team, we are all trained in remote viewing. And so we go out and, we're able to see things that the normal person can't see, according, when it comes to like events that happen to us and stuff like that. But I've been trained in different modes of remote viewing. So one of them is energetic remote viewing. And so, of course, all of my training, we had to do the Monroe Gateway program where we listen to the binaural beats and the HemiSync program. And so, and I've been taught that, I actually had a teacher, a very good teacher who is like family to me. And he taught us, we do not engage with lower vibrational frequencies and things like that. So, I actually had a guide through all of this, but for someone who is not being taught, like in a environment like I was and like had the guidance, that could be really scary. So I wouldn't know what to do, honestly. And if I didn't have someone that told me.
Yeah,
so I feel you.
Yeah, the closest the thing at the time that I saw that resonated the most with me is I heard it called the dweller in the threshold. That there's this sort of amalgamation of all the things that didn't make it from one life to the next, and in some way that really is you, and they really think you are them because it is, and you have to just kind of integrate with it with love. Well, I tried that. It didn't quite work. But what ended up happening was I could not fall asleep without or falling into this place. And me, a lifelong insomniac, I had to train myself to fall asleep, within 2 or 3 minutes of hitting the bed, or I would, without fail, involuntarily fall into that sort of place. And I haven't really had dreams since then either, which I thought, or dreams that I recall, which is strange. So there's kind of all of these different pieces to it. And then fast forward to, this is kind of when it gets all juicy and stuff, I suppose, as far as the story.
It's all juicy.
But,
we like juice.
We like juice.
And actually, I'll just open this up just so I don't just so that I have some notes here. So with the pandemic, I decided to go up to New Jersey to spend the summer with some friends. I figured, I'm working remote, I can live rent free. My friends had just bought a 14-acre beautiful horse ranch in rural northern New Jersey, and so I went up there to spend the summer up there. And
I would too.
yeah, it was really nice.
Nice.
It was a wonderful place to spend the summer. And the three of us, this was on July 27th of 2020. We were out, just watching the sky and hanging out, which is something that we would do pretty frequently. Mind you,
hey, that's my kind of people.
Yeah. Now, mind you, none of us are, UFO people per se, or anything like that. We just, like to hang out outside. It was a nice night. The stars are pretty. And initially, and I would say for about 15 to 20 minutes, we thought we were seeing satellites, in the sky. And as time went on, this started to heat up at around 11:30 or midnight. It started to get really evident that perhaps maybe these weren't just satellites. And what would ensue was a very, very programmatic 12-hour long operation of some kind that involved our military, or some department of, or some, I don't know, private or otherwise, but us, let's say, and them, let's say. And it was something that they were doing together. Nobody was chasing anybody around, but there was a very, very programmatic series of events that was taking place in the sky. It started with orbs that would very slowly fan out and kind of place themselves into a grid across the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And once they had sort of gridded the sky, this one was a really kind of disturbing thing. Is once they got into a grid, within a matter of seconds, they could black out the sky with this sort of like amorphous mist, this cloud mist.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And I found it really fascinating because once they would cover the sky, that's when you would start to hear airplanes, helicopters, things happening above the cloud cover. And this would last for maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and then it would shrink wrap itself like a vacuum cleaner sucking into a single point in the sky, and you would be back to a crystal clear night sky.
Wow.
Wow.
And
That's
this just looked like
wild.
regular clouds, like a thin layer of clouds is what it looked like?
It looked... I mean, yes, it was, but there was an energy to it. So if you almost like the smoke coming off of liquid nitrogen,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
like this undulating
Vapor,
kind
kinda.
of vapor,
Yeah.
you know,
Indistinct
cloud
edges,
cover.
stuff like that.
Yeah, and just this very I mean, there was an energy to its movement, you know, it wasn't just
Wow.
sort of dissipating. I mean, it was undulating as it was dissipating, almost like somebody had turned on a smoke machine in the middle of the sky and it was just billowing out.
That's
Was how-
interesting.
Yeah, it was
That's wild.
crazy on the eyes. It was
That's wild.
crazy.
You know what?
Yeah.
This is not to say this is similar, but it kind of is because, you know, I spend a lot of time out in the woods chasing Bigfoot, okay, and Sasquatch. But we go out there and we actually have been having more ET activity than Bigfoot activity over the past few years. And I've been doing this for a while. But there was one night in particular that we were out there and I had a few people with me and two of my, you know, hardcore diehard teammates with me. And one of them is, former special forces military guy. And we were noticing that there was something off, as there usually is when we're out in the woods. And a fog was almost like chasing us. There was a fog. It was a dense fog that seemed to have a consciousness to it. Okay. Yeah. And it was terrifying. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now because it wasn't normal. And it's not something that we knew that there was something up to that. Like it was up to something and it was not right. And so we actually hightailed it out of there. And we had people with us that weren't trained very well in what to do if all crap hit the fan, you know. And so we were trying to hurry them out without telling them, letting them know that we had
a way to train for something like that.
Oh yeah, well, you know, we're inoculated. Let's just say I'm inoculated to all the high strangeness,
right. And
the other people with this weren't. So we were trying to get them out of harm's way before this fog caught up to us because we didn't know where we were going, what it was going to do to us. Wow. But I understand, like there is that kind of phenomenon out there.
There is, and there was on the second sighting 3 days later, the same mist would return again, but it would also conceal one of the giant triangles, and I'll tell you guys about that in a second. So on the farm, we had a decent view of the night sky vertically, but we're pretty much surrounded by trees. You know, we've got about an acre of clear land, but you know, all this really fun stuff is happening in the sky. But one of the craziest things was that now when I saw this, I just assumed it was a B-2 bomber, you know, because that's when you see it, and when you see it with its lights on and its turbines. I mean, this thing was so low, it was coming in for a landing, but what was so strange was that you did not know, you had no idea where it was, you didn't hear it. I mean, it wasn't until it turned on its landing gear and was right above our heads that we had any idea it was And the turbines, it sounded like a turbine, but if an airplane sounds like a Camry, this thing sounded like a Lamborghini. Like it sounded like an exotic jet. But it just blew me away that it could be right on top of me, and I had no idea, because there was no incoming noise. There was no, at what point did it get only 500 feet above, and pulling out landing gear? And where is it landing? We're in the middle of the nowhere, New Jersey.
Well, chances are it wasn't a jet. I'm just saying.
I don't think so.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no expert, but that would be my opinion.
I wouldn't call myself an expert either. I was in the Air Force for 24 years. I was an aircraft mechanic.
Okay.
And while I didn't specifically work on B-2s, stealth bomber, I've seen many of them flying around. And the one big thing, obviously, it looks like something Batman would fly around in.
Yeah.
But the other thing is they are very, very loud. Their engines are very loud. It's not like they've got a quiet mode or anything like that. That's not part of its stealth capabilities. So you would have known if it was coming, and even when it was leaving for a long time.
Exactly. And that's what was mind blowing to me. I mean, that got the most, I when I tell the story, I say that's when my inner monkey came out, because I've never had something like this happen to me, but my body just uttered a yell that could only be described as like my inner ape, freaking out. And it was from that jet just essentially materializing out of nowhere, as if it was coming in for landing, and having no idea how it got that close without me knowing about it.
Appeared overhead. Man.
It just appeared overhead.
Wow.
And so the way that this particular night ended is one of the orbs kind of settled in behind the tree line, and that one stayed there until 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30. It was broad daylight outside. Before it was the last one to finally retreat. Now, what was interesting is 3 days later, I've got a different group of people. One of the same people, but another person as well that wasn't there the first time. We drive 6 hours north into rural New York, and here we've got a lot more land. We're on about 500 acres. A lot of it's been rented out for wheat farming, so we've got a clear view sky of a clear view of the whole sky, and we're surrounded by tree lines, in a big multi-acre kind of sectioned area. Now what ends up happening is really bizarre, because the exact same program begins to happen again. And to the extent that I've got this new person with me, and I'm like, oh, they just did this. Wait, they're going to do this next. They're going to do this next. Except we had a much better view. And so what we could, and some other things happened too. So to recap, we had the orbs that came out. They covered the grid in the sky. They covered the sky with the clouds. We heard planes and helicopters. What was interesting is we have down the way from us, across the field, we've got the tree line. There's a mobile army setup over there, and you can tell they've got some trucks. They've got a helicopter over there. You can see the glow of the lights. At all. No, not at all. and in Jersey, there had been Humvees. For context, nobody, unless they live on this road in Jersey, would be on this road. It really is just a farm road. And if you're not on one of these farms, there's no reason why you would be on any length of this road. And for about 20 minutes that following morning, there was just Humvee after Humvee barreling down that road, the following morning, which I was like, I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, we're in New York. There's some kind of tent situation going on the other side of the tree line. You can even hear voices indistinctly a little bit. Like there's definitely people over there. There's a whole setup. We do see a helicopter, pick up, take off. What was interesting is one of the orbs came up and over not directly over the tent, but maybe 100 yards off to the right of the tent from where we were viewing it. And for about 10 minutes, it sat about 100, 150 feet up in the air, and lightning from the ground just was coming up at it, just sort of haphazardly.
Wow.
Yeah. And
lightning from the ground to the
from the
sky.
Yeah. And what was
it wasn't like coming from like light, like electrical poles
no, like
or anything, like just
I
straight
mean,
from the ground.
you couldn't, whatever was happening was on the other side of the tree line, so I couldn't
So you
see
couldn't
the
really
actual
see.
ground, but it was, whatever was happening from ground level to the top of that tree coming out. So I don't know if there was something there on the other side or if it was just straight out of the ground or what. But what was interesting is on the way up there, because we were going to camp out, we were checking the weather. It said 0 chance of rain, but there was like a 60% chance of lightning, which I just thought was kind of interesting and I looked it up and it does exist. It does exist.
A lightning warning,
happen,
huh?
But
That's
but
odd.
it's rare. It's rare.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a very, to be sitting there watching lightning coming out of the ground on a bone dry, clear sky. I was like,
and then you get a lightning warning about that. That's really odd. I mean,
yeah, I thought that
I've
was
gotten
strange.
plenty of tornado warnings, but never a lightning warning.
Yeah, it's like you have a chance of lightning,
It's a
no
cover
rain,
up.
no clouds. Yeah, I thought that was kind of strange, but maybe just a coincidence.
No.
And so now we have orbs that are also doing like these performative dances. They're getting closer, they're getting closer, they're getting closer. It's starting to be very evident to me that, the guys on the other side of that tree line know that we're here, and sitting on this porch on this hunting blind watching all of this. And,
Right.
And I'm nervous as it is with the law. And so I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. Am I not supposed to be watching this? Am I going to get in trouble? What, are they doing this on purpose? Are they testing, their own stuff? Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts racing through my head. We're trying to catch these things on video. It's interesting because sometimes we'll see them with our eyes and the camera's not grabbing it. And sometimes the camera will grab it and we can't see it with our eyes. They're just sort of playing with the dynamic of, they're just complete and total control,
Amazing.
is what they're demonstrating. And then at some point, and I'm kind of breezing through all of this, I know, this big
super
misty
interesting
cloud comes out. And inside of this misty cloud is the big, massive black triangle. And it's insane. It's insane. It's crawling at all of 3 miles an hour. It's maybe 100 to 200 feet up in the air. I mean, it feels like it's on top of your head.
It's pretty low.
And it's so big and it's so low. And as it's passing over me overhead, you felt like it was palpable in the air. You felt the air
the energy
was
of
charged.
it.
Yeah. And I know there's lots of talk about it made noise, it did not make noise. What I heard two things, and I didn't necessarily hear them throughout, but I would on occasion hear the whirring of like a transformer. So like just this low thrum, this low vibration sort of deal. And then the other thing that I heard was sort of the groan of, you might expect a giant hull of a ship to make, from the twisting. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how low it was in the air, and it was hidden within a cloud. But what I also, the other striking thing was the surface of it. It was almost like a slate. It was like a metallized stone almost. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't smooth necessarily. I mean, it looked like It looked like
Kind of organic
kind
or
of
something,
kind of
huh?
yeah, almost
So
like
it had a
somebody made a
texture to it.
megalithic like a
Yeah.
megalithic stone floating in the air with
Yeah.
lights on it,
I've heard that
you know,
before.
and it was
Yeah.
a very dark charcoal kind of color.
I'm impressed that you were so close to that. That is
Yeah,
so wild.
yeah,
Did it
Yeah.
have, did it
it
have
was.
lights or anything like that on it?
Oh yeah, yeah. It had the three lights in each corner,
Corner.
and it had a light in the center, but it wasn't always engaged. The light in the center, was sometimes not visible at all. Sometimes it was red, and then sometimes it was just a sort of dim white like the others. Um, and that's not even the climax of the evening, but at this point,
It's already pretty
we're
You've
big.
got
freaking out. Yeah,
you got
yeah,
more, but wait, there's more.
yeah, and well,
That
because
is
these events, I
wild.
mean, these were like 12-hour long. I mean, they from midnight or from like 11:30 to 10 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning, you could at least see something. But
Mhm.
from midnight to 4 or 5 in the morning, I mean, it was a light show to end all light shows, and I mean,
Wow.
it was an absolutely life-changing event. But what was, at this point, I'm freaking out because I'm like, well, what's going on? This is a massive operation. I don't care, who you are. This is millions of dollars, millions upon millions of dollars that I'm looking at, in resources of whatever kind.
Mhm.
And here I am 6 hours away from where I just was 3 days ago. Is this happening all over the country? Is this happening all over the East Coast? Is this happening all over the world? Are they putting
Oh
some
my
kind of
gosh.
Faraday cage around
Like
this?
that move,
What's
there's
going
movies
on?
about that,
What?
right?
Yeah,
It's like the
exactly.
alien invasion finally happened. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
here.
at the
I
Yeah.
time,
would probably think the same thing.
Yeah.
yeah, and these events were on such a large scale. I mean, I was convinced that there was no way we would make it to Christmas without this being the biggest, human event
Wow.
story. Like,
Yeah.
because it was such a in your face, not trying to be coy, not trying to hide,
Yeah.
not trying to. I mean, they were front and center, saying, "Here we are. Look what we can do." Um,
So
and
you
then
don't think that was military. Your feeling is that that was actually extraterrestrial, right?
well,
Or other.
I think that they were both together,
Okay. Interesting. That is so
because
interesting you say that because I do a show every Friday night about remote viewing investigations that I do with like paranormal stuff. And I pick up a lot of times, there's a lot of government cover-ups that happen with a lot of UFO activity and a lot of any kind of like dogman attacks or Bigfoot attacks and things like that. But a lot of times when there's UFO activity, I pick up in my remote viewing that it's military and ET combined. So I'm
yeah, that
really
was
interested in what you have to say about this because I get that a lot with the Dyatlov Pass incident in Russia back in the 50s. I got military and ET involvement with that. So yeah, I love
yeah. I got
listening to
the
you. This
distinct
is great.
impression they were
It's
they
great.
were
Yeah.
working together. I don't know if they were
Hmm.
training us up on their tech or what have you,
Yeah.
but
There's a
some of the
connection.
stuff was plausibly theirs. I know the humans were definitely there, but there was definitely, when you see these orbs up close, it's really something else, and that's kind of how it capped off the evening. So if the giant triangle overhead wasn't enough to make sure that we knew we were being singled out, um, where we were sitting on this hunting blind. There's just a dirt road that has access to this piece of land. There's no address anywhere. I mean, there's no street lights. There's nothing out here. And
Mhm.
there's just a horseshoe drive and a hunting blind and then this massive 500-acre property. And all of a sudden I hear something, and this all happens in a matter of 2 seconds or a couple of seconds. But the three of us start to hear something whizzing up the road, and my initial thought is it's the military guys coming in to address us. I don't know
Right.
if we're going to be in
Uh-huh.
trouble or if they're going to tell us not to
Busted.
say anything or what. Yeah, and it's like, hey man, we've had these plans. We didn't know you were going to be here. Like, we're not doing anything wrong. But yeah, but that was the fear. And then to make matters worse, all of a sudden we see what we think are headlights coming up that horseshoe entryway. The guest that we're with is so panicked, she flips to face away from the street, gets in the fetal position. But me and my friend remain looking at, the lights that are coming on, and it's not, it's not a Humvee. It's an orb that's come down to ground level, and it didn't come up the horseshoe drive, but it barreled down the dirt road, directly down to where the military had its pitch-up tent. And when I tell you that I was no more than about 35 or 40 feet away from this orb that was at ground level, I got a really, 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 really good look at this thing. And this thing was traveling at well over 150 miles an hour. But I feel like I got some really interesting takeaways from it. Firstly was, the biblical description of angels, and the way that they're described as these sort of like pivoting balls of light around this sort of black epicenter that can, potentially take the shape of some being. That is dead on. This thing was about 25 to 30 feet in diameter. It looked like a
Wow.
like a
That's
3D
huge.
animation of an atom. Just
Yeah.
these
Right.
whirring energies spinning around this black epicenter. And inside that black epicenter, I only saw it for a split second, but it would not surprise me if there was some sort of entity or some kind of being in there.
I have something that I can tell you that I've seen from experience with orbs and ETs. I actually have seen a video. Someone from MUFON had this, but they haven't released it. Okay, well, this person has since passed on, and a friend of mine has this video of orbs shooting down from the sky and turning into ETs and running around somebody's backyard, turning back into orbs and shooting past the camera again. Wow. And this is all in somebody's backyard.
That's how everybody got anything done back in the Bible days too, is they came down in a ball of light, they popped out, they gave you a message. We've been dealing with this for a long time. And that was kind of I'm not a religious guy by, either, just to be clear. I mean it just like, when I saw all of this happening, my initial thought wasn't little green men from Mars. My initial thought was, holy crap, this is what the guys were talking about when angels were coming down and telling him stuff. This is what they were looking at. And when you see it firsthand and you read their descriptions, you're like, dude, we're describing the same thing. And that was just mind-blowing to me. But it made like this sort of whoosh sound. But what I thought was interesting was it was flying through a very narrow tree line. This dirt road is quite narrow, and it was moving. It wasn't interacting with any of our environment. It was just kind of moving through it, and everything was sort of moving out of its way. And so, it didn't whoosh the trees like a car might or a truck might with the wind, but the trees did have to groan and stretch out of its way as it moved through it. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And then it went and settled in, by where the light was emanating from the trees, and that's how that particular night, that was the capstone on that night.
Wow, that is,
and then things started to kind of settle back.
Rodrigo, we've only got a few minutes left of the show, but thank you very much for sharing all of this. Amazing. Sure. But I was wondering if at this point you've experienced all of these things, for pretty much most of your life, it sounds like. I was wondering if you had like an overall kind of worldview about all of it. Are these all separate things in your book, or are they all kind of interrelated?
Yeah, bring it together for us.
Yeah.
Just
No, that's a great
just wrap
question.
up the mysteries of the universe. I'm sure it's going to be easy for you.
Yeah, interestingly, I think what I'm very sure of is that I don't know what this phenomena is. I don't know if it's, little green men from Mars or, angels and demons. I don't know what the right nomenclature is. I'm willing to bet we're probably, technically incorrect about all of it. But what I will say is that this phenomena is one and the same thing. And it's, something that we've been dealing with for a long time and calling it, many different things. But hopefully we're getting closer to, putting it on paper officially.
Yeah. You know what? This is amazing. Rodrigo, it was last minute. You are an amazing guest. I wish you would come back on when I could actually advertise you coming on my show sometime. And Enzo, you too. You guys are lifesavers, and this has been an amazing show tonight.
I was listening to you. This is the Rodrigo show. I didn't have to do anything.
It totally went by so fast. I mean, it's only an hour show, and so we got to go. But Rodrigo, where can people find you? Do you have a social media?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram, Rodrigo Lloreda, Lloreda. All just one word. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you, Rodrigo. Well, I would love to have you back on sometime. Let's do this. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I'm going to take you guys down, and if you want to stick around, I'll talk to you backstage in just a second. But Enzo, thank you. You're a trooper, man. I appreciate it, Enzo. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Nice to meet you as well.
All right. It was nice to meet you, Rodrigo. I will see you soon. Okay. All right, y'all. I mean, I tell you, teamwork makes the dream work. And if you don't believe that, come to SOR. And don't forget that right after this show, you can join the live crew of BigWilly, Jon, and Grant, the three amigos. They're going to take you guys on a mysterious, incredible journey for the next 3 hours. And tomorrow on Off the Trails, my guest is Jody Cook of the North American Dogman Project, and we're going to talk Dogman. So I can't wait to see y'all there. But for now, I'm the Cryptid Huntress. I'm headed off the trails. Spit it out, Jess. And I will see you guys tomorrow. So until then, good night.